Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Yaakov.
And this is Love and Money. So Yaakov and I are married. He's my husband. And we started this podcast because we had a lot of people approach us and ask us, how do we talk about money in our relationship? I know a lot of people struggle with this issue, whether it comes to how to save together, how to spend together, whether to have joint accounts or separate accounts, what to invest in, what are your sort of goals. And so we established this podcast so that we could actually go through that journey together together live. And so that you guys could kind of join that journey and, use it for yourselves, try it out, with your own partner and see how that works for you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds actually I think we've been talking about having this podcast for a while. I think we've spoken to a lot of people, specifically in the business that you do, the business that I do. We talk to a lot of people on a day-to-day about money and about management and about knowing what to do in certain situations. And I think it was very valuable to eventually just evolve into starting a podcast because I believe a lot of people want to hear the thoughts of not only people that they know close by, but also people who've gone through the same experience. Yeah. And that they can relate to, so that they can also maybe see it in themselves or in their own lives, how they could actually take, the steps necessary to better themselves on a financial level.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I have those conversations with people where they ask me questions about how do you talk about this with Yaakov and how do you do it? I'm like, honestly, I don't know. We're trying to figure that out ourselves. And so I feel like in the process of us doing this, we learn something, you learn something, and we're all better for it.
And I think this is a good process to start from so that other people can join us, quote unquote, on this journey in their own personal life.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the challenge as well is that, I have my own goals, you have your own goals, and we have to make sure that those come together at some point, right? Because we are a partnership,
right?
And it has to make sense for the both of us.
Yeah.
And I know and
I hope that you're on the same page as me to start a cupcake factory. I really have been looking to buy that giant cupcake factory in New Jersey.
Am I making the frosting, or which part am I doing?
I don't know. I'm going to definitely be doing the testing. Testing of all flavors. Despite the fact that I cannot have too much gluten.
So we're not be selling any cupcakes. You're just gonna be eating.
That's my financial goal.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's actually a good segue for us to start off. I think the basic groundwork of these conversations is always to align on that goal. So before we can decide, how we want to budget or how we want to spend or what we want to spend our money on, whatever, we have to decide what is that North Star for the both of us that makes sense, that allows us to, basically what's our why? Let's establish what's our why, what's our reason for wanting to do this, for wanting to better our financial lives together. That will motivate us towards that. So I want to ask you, what's your personal why? Or maybe there's multiple, or there's a few things that you want.
Okay, so I think my why could be broken up into personal needs, community needs, right? Our needs. From a relationship perspective, specifically with you, right? I think it's important that at least my why is to ensure that I'm able to provide for my family, that I'm able to feel comfortable.
Does that include $40,000 a year Jewish education?
Yes, unfortunately, it does go down to that, and I think we're going to have to get into that at a later time. I do believe, it is difficult out there today, in today's day, right? And I'm not going to get into the whole dynamics again. I think we could dissect a lot of these issues and topics that a lot of families, both Jewish and non-Jewish, go through. Specifically people that want to go through decent, normal education. They want to live in decent, nice communities, right? There's a lot of issues that fold into these conversations. But I think if you're asking me for my general why, I want to be able to support for my family. So I want to be able to have the financial means to ensure that you're comfortable, that you feel confident and you feel secure. So
how much money do you feel you need for that?
It's a good question, right? Because you have to go based on where you are in the stage of life, right? So if you're just getting married, or even before that, if you're single, right, you need to ensure that what's my why should be I should be able to afford rent, decent food, and the occasional outings and of course savings, right? Savings, investments for the future. Always looking for the future, right? When you're married.
So how much money is that for you specifically now?
I think today in my point of view in my life, knowing a little bit about our finances, I think it's reasonable to say that how much I want to make, you're asking, right? Like, I think I think it would be nice to be anywhere between the ballpark of 150 to 100,000 a year.
Okay.
I think that's and again, taking into consideration that we live in New York, right? We pay these beautiful things we call taxes in New York, regardless if you agree with the services that you're receiving or not. But we have to, right? So I think that's a comfortable area.
Yeah.
And what about you? What is your why and yeah, what do you feel is an area that will be comfortable for you to go about
so
financial means?
I want us to have a baby at some point. I know that might scare you at some point.
I don't think it's scary. I think it's more scary about like, okay, you have to. Everything is a process, right? Like you have to plan accordingly. But
and there's certain milestones I want to hit financially and career wise before we do that, and health wise and a lot of other things. But I think primarily financially, taking into account as well this my looming fear about education, sort of this dark cloud that's sitting over my head. But generally, I think that sounds like that's what we can align on, right? Is, our why is wanting to start a family, feeling like we have the financial means to do that and be able to maintain a certain lifestyle. Now, how much money do you think I need to make? Let's say you're making 150 a year, 150 or 200 a year. How much do you think we need to be making collectively? And therefore, how much do I need to be making for us to be able to do that?
Well, in the beginning stages of having a child is not as...
By the way, I did the research. You know how much it costs to raise a child per year? On average.
Well, how much does it cost to have a child?
To raise a child. To have a child is already another whole thing with the hospital costs and blah, blah, blah. Just to raise a child, how much does it cost per year? Do you know?
I didn't do the research. I'll be very honest. It could be anywhere. A normal child, what age?
On average from 0 to 18.
50 to 75,000 a year.
Okay, well, the United States average is around, I think, 24,000.
Okay,
but New York is. I did the calculation. If we give our children the kind of lifestyle that I had as a child, where I was doing chess class and dancing and painting and all those things, it's probably going to be a little bit double that. So let's call it $40K a year.
Okay. Per child.
Per child. Yes.
Okay.
So knowing that, how much money do you feel we collectively need to be making?
A lot more than what I said. No, listen. Again,
there's got to be a middle ground. You know what I mean? It can't be. Everybody has kids. Not everybody, but a lot of people have kids, and a lot of people aren't making 150 grand a year, and somehow they're managing. So bare minimum, what you feel in terms of our lifestyle, what we'd feel comfortable with, what you feel comfortable with. Going back to that question, how much do you think we collectively need to make?
Collectively, I think again, you're going based on our Jewish lifestyle. Yeah. With kids.
With one kid. Let's call it one kid.
One kid and a fat dog.
Yes.
Okay.
You guys might see her walking around, or she might jump on us at some point.
Millie, she comes around to say hello. But I think if you have to do that, I think 200,000, 250,000 could be able to get you through a year.
I think that's doable.
Because I know a lot of people, when you do tell them, 250,000 is decent money, they're like, really? Because that's a lot of money. Right? It is a lot of money. People who live in New York, right? So, of course, if you want to live in Manhattan next to Central Park, that's like, barely making.
I want everyone to be clear. The amounts of money we're talking about is a lot of money. We live in Manhattan. We like living here. We could do a trade-off, meaning we don't have to make that much. We could go live in Queens or somewhere else in the city.
Yeah, you could live in Brooklyn. We could live in Brooklyn. Places, much more affordable places.
So that's all to say that I think we could do it on less. I think we could even do it on 150K, right? And even that's a lot. But the point is,
even less than that. You could
do it on less.
Live in New York comfortably based on the statistics at 100,000. The reason that we're throwing out these numbers.
You're saying with kids? No.
Yes.
Okay, fine, maybe. There are single parents. Yeah, there are single parents with one child.
First of all, I don't want to give this perception that it's so far out, right? A lot of people are going to be watching this and be like, "Oh my God, like these numbers I will never see in my lifetime, or not in my lifetime, but I'll never see it in the current, the current
I
situation.
mean, we're not going to see it in the next, definitely not in the next, 6 months to maybe if things go really, really well with my business, we will. But as of now,
no. But I'm saying like for the average person, right? The normal person, to live well in New York, you don't have to have a ton of money.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the people that are of a certain class. They want to be very comfortable. They want to live well. They want to live in a nice neighborhood. They want to be around certain people. They want to send their kids to a certain school. Yeah, it costs. Those things cost.
But my point is, I'm willing to sacrifice that if it means we can have a kid. Meaning, I'm not going to put off having a kid if it means that I'm waiting around to have that lifestyle to support having a child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I would rather have the kid sooner, even if we're not in that position to have that lifestyle.
And it's valid. You don't need to be living in a specific lifestyle. Again, it all boils down to what lifestyle you want to live.
Yeah.
Majority of the people are just simply happy being with good people around good community, and it doesn't have to be in very, very upper class locations.
But do you think that's what we can align on?
Yeah.
Meaning, having a kid in the next, call it 2 years at some point, let's call it next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Being able to have a kid and not have anxiety around supporting them and ourselves. I think that can be our grounding why.
Yeah, that can be definitely a grounding why.
And that will change, obviously, over time. If we do end up having a kid, hopefully, and then we'll have one, then it'll be maybe a second kid or a home or some other goal that we both have.
Yeah, definitely. I mind you, I really would love to hear from our audience what they think is a reasonable why, or what is their why, and what is a reasonable amount of money depending on their location deemed appropriate to live.
And have you talked about your why with your partner?
Yeah.
Have you guys sat down and thought about what is that thing that you can align on? Or because I see this all the time where you have two people, one person is saving money and one person is spending money, and the one who's saving feels really frustrated. They don't know what to do about it. And the person who's spending is like, well, I just want cool shit. Like, why are you stopping me? Why are you like looking over my shoulder? That's when having a shared goal is really helpful, because then you could sit down and say, okay, this is the thing that we're sacrificing other things for. Mm-hmm. And then it makes the conversation a lot easier. You're not saying, oh, I don't like that you spend a lot of money. It's the thing that you're doing is not in service to our shared goal that we have. And so you're not being a good, I'm not saying you are, I'm saying in general, like it's a conversation where like you're not being a good partner, you're not contributing to the partnership, to that shared goal that we've established together. So I think that's why this is the most important step, the very first step.
It always comes down to I'm trying to go back in my head. Sometimes my head goes faster than the way I speak. I think it all comes down to the outlook of what you're trying to achieve. Like you said, the goal has to be shared, mutual, right? For all those people who are like going out dating, right? Besides good looks and the experiences that you have with that individual, it's very important that you also, besides politics and religion and all the other harta barta that you have to figure out, it's very important to be aligned.
For those of you that don't know what that means,
I make up words, by the way. I'm just going to let you know. Going forward, I will make up words, and it will make sense in the context.
Oh, I thought it was Yiddish for something. No, it's just not
like,
a word.
It's like what Oscar the Grouch from the garbage can, he just like spurts out words. So that's me. No, I'm just saying, like, you have to create certain goals, and these goals you have to align with, right? And it's very much embedded in the philosophy of Debbie, right? The company that you and Frida are building.
Frida's my business partner.
I think it's important to always have that goal, and then once you have that goal, you're able to build off. Okay, what do I need to achieve? What do I need to do to achieve this goal? What do I need to sacrifice to achieve this goal? Right? I think a lot of people are like, oh, goal. Now what? How do I get from here to there?
And I think that's what will be the next episode. Is we'll sit down and we'll take a look at where our money's going, right? So how much we're bringing in, where it's all going, and come up with ideas of whether there are some things that maybe we want to increase, cut back on, whatever it is to accomplish that goal.
Okay, so let's give our audience a little bit of a background. I guess it's important because we started the podcast speaking about our goals. We're speaking about a lot of like expectation, lifestyles, different things like that. I think it's very important to know is, at least from my perspective, right? I could be completely wrong on the social barometer, but Americans are very, very non-communicative when it comes to personal issues like finance, goals, outlooks, politics, religion, a lot of these things. It's becoming more prevalent that people are more vocal about it, but it's more seen within the same community that you share with.
Yeah.
So if I was Jewish, I will share Jewish values. If I was Catholic, I would be sharing Catholic values. If I was a Republican or a Democrat, I would be sharing it in those values. If I'm in a group of people that speak about money, I'm going to be speaking about money. If I'm not in that group, I'm not going to be speaking about money. I think another idea that we really want to capture with this podcast, right, besides Rachel and I speaking nonstop, is this idea of being more open and comfortable. And mind you, I'm not comfortable, right, when it comes to these types of issues, because whatever, you could be insecure, you could be, it feels like vulnerable, right? You're putting yourself out there to a certain expectation, because the idea of lifestyle today in America is like you have to show.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, you show, but not necessarily can you really achieve. Right, you cannot maintain, right? But you show, right? And it could be on Instagram, it could be on social media, it could be in real life. It's all about the perception. And so I think what we really want to accomplish with this podcast is really breaking it down, even to the things that are uncomfortable. How much you spend on groceries, how much you spend.
I
on
will
Amazon.
Roast you.
Oh yeah, no.
Just so you guys know, I'm definitely this. Well, I say I'm the saver, and then I look at all of my spending over the month, and Jakob looks at it, he's like, who here is really the spender?
Listen, we're in a society that we expect things to be ready for us, and we just have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? And again, there's going to be hopefully, so many more episodes that we can talk about this specific idea of, our generation having a lot available and it's just for us to spend. Could we survive without these things to spend? But whatever.
But to your point about the vulnerability, I hope that, for the people who do approach me and ask me, how do I even bring this conversation up to my partner without them getting all irritated and agitated? I don't have a good answer. I think it is a difficult conversation to even start to have. Like, forget about talking about mutual shared goal, like to even say, like, let's talk about money. Which I hope that this podcast, or even playing this in your house, or showing it to your partner, might be a little bit of that spark to get them. I think
so. I think just like you guys saw or heard, we talking about personal things, right? Expectation of salary, expectation of kids. How do you want to live that life? I think that is it's an important conversation to have, and maybe there are a lot of podcasts out there that already share this information, but I do feel that. From a perspective of a husband and wife, specifically ones who are starting the journey, right? We got married a year ago. We started, different careers, right, when we got married, right? It's a process that we're learning. And I think as we go about this journey, right, as opposed to, someone like Dave Ramsey who sat up there, he's already been there, and now he's giving his advice to the youngsters. We're going through the journey with you. And of course, we're always open for sending questions, making comments, critiquing our advice or opinions or ideas, or even educating us on this is what we do and this is how we do it and this is how we think about it. I think it's very enlightening because we'll create a community and a square, if you will, of information where people just come to the square and converse about it and take away and help other people to be more confident and I guess more on top of their decision making when it comes to finances, when it comes to goals, when it comes to the structure of the home.
Yeah, amazing. All right, I think we end it there.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for joining us in the first episode.
Thank you very much.
To many more.
Yes. Take care.